Greetings, Earthlings.
Hello.
We are streaming.
Dale, is it your show next week?
I think it's in June sometime.
All right. So then we'll be doing VMs
Yeah, let's do that.
since we didn't get to
I'll
do it
be.
last time.
I will be ready. I promise.
Okay. Are you feeling better?
Yeah. I
'Cause you
can't
sound like
breathe.
shit.
Yeah. Can't breathe too
Did you
good, but
did you catch the cove?
no, I think it was just regular flu. Cause I had a daddy-daughter date the day before we was supposed to record the show, and the wife kept her out of school the day before. She said she was feeling fine next day, and she didn't have a fever when she woke up Saturday morning, so we thought everything was fine. But that's the only thing I can think of because I've not even had so much as a cough in years now. So,
You were overdue.
yeah. Yeah, I guess.
Only one
I
microphone. Only one microphone.
The problem with me is I'm the kind of person I don't get sick very often, but when I do, I am fucking sidelined. Because especially if I've got any kind of fever, fevers just. I've been on the road with fevers, and that's even worse because can't nobody go and get you anything. You're all on your own.
Am I here?
Yeah, you're here.
Oh, okay. Because said a couple things, and yeah, Bill, you're sick. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're fine.
Excuses.
Yeah.
You just didn't want to go to mintCast.
I was thinking about doing.
I tell you, your job's going to dry up over the next couple months, isn't it?
Well, no, I speak
Both you
English. I'll
guys.
be fine.
Well, no, he's talking about the fact that we're expected to basically have nothing from China on the
China
shelves.
containers are dead.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't haul any.
A lot of what Dale does is pick up parts from Mexico, and that might be a fun thing with the tariffs.
Well, Dale, when it happens, we need drivers over here hauling scrap metal, so there's always something.
I haven't heard anything from my company about it because I mean we do bring a lot of stuff out of Mexico and into Mexico, but considering the price premium of our customers' product, I don't think it would be really an issue. I could be wrong.
Well, I hope you don't get hit hard because I know, Bill, you're just climbing out of some financial problems.
Yeah. No, I think we're gonna be fine. I think because well, first off, this industry is already short people to begin with, so retail freight might suffer.
The ports in Seattle and Los Angeles are empty now. And they're saying in another week or two, the same will be said for the ports in New Jersey and Maryland.
Yeah. I'm going to go get me some coffee. I've been sitting here for
Yeah,
hours.
I just got mine plugged in to heat up. Hi, guys. Sorry I'm a little bit late.
Well, here's the interesting thing that I've never heard anyone except for a very few, because I don't really pay that much attention to the entertainment, which some people call news, and
I am not entertained. I am more like scared shitless.
well, that's a choice. But in any case, if you look back, and I'm not going to go too far back, but I mean, if you go back to like, I'll just say the industrial time, or we come out of World War II and we're building all these things, and television is becoming more popular, and electronics, and et cetera, et cetera. If you remember, well, if you're a history geek or old enough to remember this. Televisions were a premium, and then eventually they came down in cost, but they still weren't something that everyone could afford, along with other items. And it wasn't until the 70s when Japan and to a lesser degree China and the Malaysian areas of Malaysia, South Korea, stuff like that, started making electronics and stuff. And it's also Japan with the auto industry and everything. That started coming into the United States, and it was much less expensive. And a lot of people, even today, still call it, Chinese crap, and etc. But people started buying that, and people started buying Datsuns, people started buying Subarus, people started buying Toyotas. Why? Because they were less expensive than General Motors and Ford. So you fast forward 50 years to 2025, and I really don't see much of a, the difference here.
Well,
Because
right now we can't even buy BYD vehicles.
Well, my whole point about this is there's been this whole drum beating for the past decade or so saying, well, we can't make stuff in the United States anymore because it's going to be too expensive. People are never going to buy it. Well, if you look back to, 50, 60 years ago or longer, that stuff was built in the United States, sourced, built, and sold in the United States, and people were buying it. And it was expensive. TVs were expensive. So they say now, nobody's going to be able to afford it. Now, that's because we've been spoiled.
Well, I can't afford the new stuff coming out of China. Are you kidding?
Well,
I don't know how we have not had income go up, but the prices are still going up, and
that's
I
inflation.
can't cope anymore. Well, there's more than inflation going on.
Well, that's
housing is not following inflation. If housing were inflation, these $250,000 houses would still be around 110.
Yeah. But my point was just what I've heard from some other people online was saying if you do the comparison of what things cost, like in 1940 to buy a television set, or in the 1950s, and you compare that to the prices of a television set now, we are paying a lot less for a television compared to the people back then.
But we are paying more for houses, cars, and comparatively groceries. So it kind of balances out.
Yeah, but I'm just saying this whole thing where they're saying that Apple, this is not even something recent. This is like a decade ago or so, when they're saying, well, if Apple would make their computers in the United States, you would, have, $5,000 phones and stuff like this. And what some people
just look at what that Linux phone, what is it? Purism. They sell one phone for $1,000 that's made somewhere in Singapore or something, and then they have the U.S. version that's $1,900.
But it's also you have to figure the cost of importing everything, because the thing is, like, for example, Apple chartered 3 cargo planes and flew stuff out of Shenzhen into India so that they can be so stuff could be manufactured in India instead, because there's a less of a import tariff from India. Well, the thing is, when they talk about, stuff being more expensive in the United States, it's because we don't make anything. If we made everything over here, I don't think things would be as expensive as everyone's running around with their hair on fire claims it'll be. To the degree of what they're saying. I mean, yeah, you're not going to get. I mean, yeah, an iPhone may be, instead of $1,000, it may be $200, $300, $400 more. But when you're looking at $1,000 item, $200 more is a rounding error.
Let's just take a second there, because you're paying the Chinese people a lot less than you would require to pay Americans in order for Americans to be able to afford to live. So I think it would be a lot more expensive.
At any rate, we're freaking out over here because, my wife's Canadian, and the border people are doing lots of fun things, and the non-border people are doing lots of fun things, and money is not the whole sum of it, because, like I said, if my mother hadn't died, I wouldn't be alive right now, or we would sure be in a lot worse fix than I am now. I wouldn't be on this podcast.
I thought she was naturalized because she married you.
She has a green card, and that's not automatic either. We had to pay gobs and gobs of money to get that. Maybe it wouldn't be gobs if I was Tommy Tuberville, but or someone with money, but it was gobs for me. I had to go into debt, and I had to renege on that debt and live through the reneging on that debt, and now my credit is backed. We had to go through debt reduction stuff, and it wasn't fun, and I didn't have much money to begin with, and if my mother hadn't died, we wouldn't have made it.
Because I thought you were married, because that would naturalize her.
No, it doesn't naturalize her. It doesn't even give her a green card. We have to go through. In fact, she. I won't say that out loud. She could be sent back at any moment if something was known.
I thought if, or maybe, I thought when you buried
George W. Bush ended that.
Oh, okay. Well,
it
shows you how much.
Been that way since GW.
Okay. Well, it shows you how much I pay attention to this.
Mm-hmm. So people that are freaking out might just know something you don't, Dale.
Oh, there's a lot of stuff people know that I don't know, but it's more of what I care about.
Well, it's nice that it keeps you from freaking out, but it doesn't keep them from freaking out.
Oh yeah, I can see that. It's sort of like that saying of "this too shall pass." After another 4 years, everything will get reverted, because that's the other thing.
Well, if you don't have a wide receiver, it doesn't do any good to pass.
Well, I'm pretty sure as long as, not too many laws are made about voting, then things will start to change next year.
Well, that too, with the Senate race. But my whole thing is, if you go back through history of all the things that previous administrations undo, next one does, previous administration undoes, and it's like,
yes, but what if the next administration actually follows the law and can't reverse a lot of the things that were put into place?
Yeah,
that's the whole problem. Whenever one administration passes a bunch of stuff that should be unconstitutional, the other one just comes in and says, "Oh, well, we can't talk about that anymore."
Well, it's executive orders.
They'll just divide the country to talk about that, and nothing gets reversed. We will not have America, the one I grew up in, until we reverse the Patriot Act and the Citizens United.
Well,
That's
we
the bare
did
minimum.
reverse. We did reverse out all the ACA stuff.
ACA,
Affordable Care Act.
That's a negative.
I'm just using
And
that
that
as
has
an
nothing to do with Patriot Act or Citizens United either.
well. That my point is that was an example of how something that was put into law is no longer law. So that was just an example of how you say things never get rescinded.
Yeah, we
That
reversed Roe v. Wade. We reversed the good stuff, not the bad stuff.
well, that yeah, I know, but it's contrary to what you
That
originally
means it
said.
gets worse, Dale. That
Don't-
means things get worse. You
don't
don't
need
know
to-
how freaking I am about this.
Well, don't
All
get
right,
mad.
all right. Let's move away from this entire topic. It's getting a little warm in here.
It doesn't need to be, but
I know, but this is a soft spot for him, so we're just gonna slide on away from it.
okay. I wasn't trying to egg him on, but it's like when you say nothing changes, and then you go on to say this changed, this changed, this changed, this changed. Huh? You just said nothing changes.
So, Eric, you got any projects you're working on?
Well, I finally made some headway. I'd been wanting to upgrade my Wi-Fi for a while, so I had the router that was provided by Frontier, who's my ISP, and then had a separate network that was just my home Wi-Fi, so like it was in bridge mode, and the Wi-Fi I had was like a mesh system from Synology, and I had it for probably 4 or 5 years and was never thrilled with it. I like the software because it has a lot of like tools for filtering content and, like just basically parental type controls. And that was good. But in terms of the performance, it was never particularly great. And it just would do random things like reboot, the nodes would reboot themselves. And there was never any kind of like log for me to understand why it was doing it. I would search online and like, I guess just not enough people were using them. I don't know. But I could never really fix those underlying problems, and they just were super annoying. So finally, I realized I hadn't gone to my ISP's website, like logged in under my account in probably 3 years, because why? And there's no really reason to. I have autopay set up. And so when I did, they said, upgrade to, I was at 500 gigs symmetrical, 500 gigabit, and they were like, you can upgrade, or 500 megabit, you can upgrade to 1 gigabit for the same price, or 2 gigabit for $5 more a month. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll go to 2 just for the hell of it. And they came and they had to replace the ONT in the garage, and then they also gave me a different. I had been using Mocha, if you know what that is. It's using coax cable from the ONT to the modem. And he was like, wow, how old is this? We haven't used that in like a long time. I'm like, yeah, it's an old system. That's why I wanted to get you in to upgrade it. So now it's Ethernet, which is what it should have been anyway. So yeah, Ethernet, and then the device they gave me was an Eero Pro 6E. So it's Wi-Fi 6, which is nice. Excuse me, but I only had the one device, and because my house is like a Faraday cage, it's all like mesh. If you know what stucco's like, they put down a wire mesh first and then put the cement on top of it. And so my interior walls are like that. Like you can't hang a painting, you can't, you have to like go through extraordinary measures to get a fastener.
It's almost like it's almost like the chicken wire, the rock glass. Because the house that I was renting before I moved here, was built in 1895, and I had to use two Unify AC APLRs in two ends of the house in order to get reception, because like you said, you could tell, because this house was modified since 1895, and
Okay.
you could tell where original wall is and where the modern construction is, because you could be on one wall of your phone or of a laptop or whatever for Wi-Fi, and you can have like 1 bar, 2 bars. I mean, barely any service, and then you can walk down the hallway to the next room, and you've got 4 or 5 bars, 400 megabits down. I mean, yeah, I know what you mean, because that house. Oh, what's funny is the kitchen area was redone, so it had all modern um, construction in that, and I could go out to the parking lot, and I could go almost 2 houses down and still have my Wi-Fi. Of course, nothing is going to be able to talk back. That's one of the misnomers of people saying, how strong their Wi-Fi signal is. The length, the what do you call it? How far it goes is irrelevant if you can't talk back. So your phone might be able to see the signal, but it doesn't have the power to get back. But yeah. But yeah, I remember Media over Coax is our provider out here before it was Spectrum. It was still Time Warner. Had, for a brief moment, I'm thinking it was only like a couple years, had Mocha. And by that time, I found out what Mocha was, and I called them up, and they're like, "Yeah, we're not going to do that anymore." I'm like, "You just got it." They said, "Yeah, we're not going to use it." I'm like, "Oh, bummer."
Yeah, well, and funny enough, because I remember when they put it in, there's a lot of existing coax cable in this house because it's from the late 60s. So, I mean, there's been, layer upon layer of different, setups with the cable and everything else. So anyway, there were drops in the rooms and stuff, but none of them worked because they weren't hooked up, and they weren't hooked up in the attic. So it was like there were splitters that weren't connected, and he couldn't trace anything. So it was just like he actually ended up running new coax from the garage all the way over to the office, which is literally the extreme ends of the house. And so it was a pretty extraordinary effort to do, at the time at least, but that's the standard they were using for that particular modem, I guess. But yeah, so anyway, it's on Ethernet now, and that device is in the office, which will reach basically the rooms that are directly adjacent. But yeah, like you said, I mean, even if you can get a connection from further than that, you're not going to really be able to do anything. So I got 2 more of the same device. So like the Synology and a lot of other mesh systems have like a main command type router or base router, and then the devices that are out on the spokes are just usually access points. They're not like full routers in that sense, but apparently the way Eero does this is that they're just the same device. So they're all the Pro 6Es. So I got 2 more of those. They're brand new. Go ahead.
No, sorry, I did. I was just going to ask if the Eeros, do
I'm
they
gonna say
do
like
wire?
140, 150 a piece, something like that. I don't know, somewhere around there.
Okay.
But
Are they wireless backhaul or the Ethernet backhaul?
and you use an app on your phone to configure the devices, and it uses a combination of Bluetooth and Wi-Fi if it has the Wi-Fi connection. So anyway, I go into the app to add the new devices, and it sees them, but it refuses to add them. No real error message, no real explanation as to why. And I'm just like, okay. And then, like I said, this is the first time I've ever tried to extend an ISP's router and not just use my own secondary network, which I could have done. It wouldn't have been that much more expensive, but I figured it's one less layer. I've been having issues with like latency and things, so I figured, well, it just simplifies it and flattens the whole topography if it's just one network and less radio interference and all that stuff. So anyway, turns out I had to call or I used online chat, but I had to tell them that I had these devices and provide the serial numbers in order for them to, I guess, whitelist them to be able to connect to their router. Excuse me. So I went through that. They whitelisted them. I was able to add them. And then I have one, it's in the center of the house that has a wired backhaul. So I have an Ethernet connection between the main unit and that the one that's in the middle of the house. So it has full speed, gigabit Ethernet. And then I have a third one that is at the extreme other side of the house, and it's just using Wi-Fi to connect and create the mesh. So far, though, I mean, it seems to have fixed all of the issues. Like using any kind of streaming, I was getting a lot of like rubber banding and latency. I mean, you guys have probably seen it. And so that seems to be better. Everybody's complaints for latency. And like my wife was like, look at this. And she'd open a Chrome or some kind of app on her phone, and it would like literally take 10 seconds under that Synology one. And this is after me troubleshooting it over and over and trying different DNS servers. And I mean, just everything I could think of to try to get it to work better, resetting them, like nothing worked. And so it was time to change, and I'm glad I did because it all seems to be working well now. So there you go. And I have 2 gigabit internet, which is kind of overkill, but.
Do those arrows have wireless backhaul, or do they have Ethernet backhaul?
Both. So the one in the middle of the house has. I mean, the preference is always to have an Ethernet backhaul, just because you're getting full speed. You're not relying on the Wi-Fi to both create the backhaul and broadcast, and handle devices and clients. So it's always better to have wired if you can. But my attic is a nightmare to work in, and I ran the Ethernet from the office to the living room 15 years ago when I was perfectly healthy and capable of doing it. And now it's like, forget it. So the one that's furthest away just doesn't have Ethernet that's that far out. So
do they have a separate radio? That's my last question.
Yeah, they do. It's actually a pretty solid device, technically. I mean, in terms of the performance and the throughput and latency, the handoff between devices, it all seems to be really solid, and just the app itself. And like I said, one of the things that's important for me is filtering and having profiles like for my kids. So this one's even better than the Synology one, because you can identify specific services, and it's all around like social media and adult sites and like all this different stuff, and you can do it at the app level and also the URL level. So it's both a web filter in terms of like the addresses and access they have there, but then also the apps that they're trying to use on their devices. So pretty solid, and it alerts me when a new device is attached, and like, so it seems to be well thought out, and works pretty well so far, at least. So hopefully that works. And it also has a cool feature, which is internet backup. So like if you had what do they call it? A hotspot. So if you had like a hotspot, either I guess through your phone, or you could have like a dedicated hotspot, you can have it be a failover. So like they call it a backup, but it's basically just like a failover. So if the ISP's internet is not working, the device can still provide internet by using a secondary like hotspot, which I thought was pretty cool too. So I mean, I'll probably never use it, but it's a neat idea. So, and then has all the basic
we've got Lunasick down here, who hasn't said anything. Looks like Majid has joined us. I mean, this is a roundtable. We should at least say hi when people come in.
Well, hello,
Hello,
everybody. Sorry,
Majid,
I was
how
blabbing
goes? Have you got season tickets to Liverpool yet?
Okay, look, the thing is, the way Man United are going, we're going to be in the Europa League final. So at least there's some hope. All right.
Yeah, I was watching their score the other day, and well, I only caught it at halftime, but they were up by 3.
Yep, 3-0. We were, and that's how we won it.
Cool.
Is that game where they don't touch the ball?
Theoretically.
Yeah, they touch the ball with their feet. I think if they wanted to make it even more of a challenge, since they're not using their hands, I think they should all do it while standing on their hands and then use their feet to kick the ball.
That would be an interesting game.
Yeah.
It'd take a smaller field too. Well, some of the Irish variations of it are intriguing. Gaelic football and hurling are quite exceptional. But I was just wondering if Majid had gotten his Liverpool season tickets yet.
They also have rugby?
I am not rising to that, Moss.
You just did. Well, the weird thing is there was a Canadian rugby team, but the rugby league, but that was like 130 years ago, and it turned into Canadian football. So there's no more rugby being played in Canada. I really think Canadian football is a better version of American football, but they don't have the better players, so it doesn't really get the audience attention the way. They tried to expand into the U.S. a couple times.
Yeah, I don't know much about rugby. I know that's supposed to be more of a contact sport like our NFL football, but
Interesting thing about rugby is that there is no protective equipment. I mean, there is some like gum shields, but that's about it. No helmets, no nothing.
wow.
I suppose the big difference is that in both rugby codes, because there's rugby league and rugby union, you can only tackle the player with the ball. And the one thing I've noticed about American football and Canadian football is you can tackle other people who don't have the ball to, I don't know, block off offense or disrupt defense, things like that. Maybe that's why they need the protective equipment, because there's only one person getting tackled at any one time in rugby.
Well, they also hit a lot harder. That's why you need the pad.
Well, yeah. So American football, like they just throw themselves with no care because they have the helmet and the pads. But if you watch them tackle in rugby or Australian rules football, like yeah, they hit each other hard, but they also are like trying to capture each other and like not just slam against each other. They're actually trying to like undo the ball or like there's a different subtlety to the hits than there. I mean, American football is just basically, meat tenderizer.
Yeah,
well,
like
I mean,
how hard
rugby
can you
league,
throw?
seriously, is some of the hardest tackles I've ever seen. I've been in rugby league, genuinely.
No, I know, but they're still tackling. Like I'll see them wrap someone up and tackle them hard. And yeah, you'll not get the wind knocked out of you, but they're not going to break your neck or a rib like they will. That's all I'm saying. It's much more discriminate.
it's still
they take their openings, but
yeah, you're still dealing with physics, because I remember there was an interview. I think it was The Rock, or it could have been one of the WWE people, and they were asking about how much of it is real and how much of it is part of the script, because it's all scripted. And I think it was The Rock or whoever it was, or it could have been the other guy. Oh, anyways, it's one of them. I don't follow
the other
it.
guy, yeah.
No, it's the other guy. He's my friend follows this religiously. childhood friend, and he's married to Vince's daughter now. I can't remember his name, but he's like blonde, long hair. What? Anyways, it's one of these two guys, and they were saying, well, you still have to deal with physics because yeah, we are trained on how to land, how to do the hits, so we're not, immobilizing, disabling a person. But he said like I'm like 6'4", like 300 something pounds, whatever his stats were. He says, yeah, I know how to fall, so I'm not going to hurt the person, but you still have 280 pounds of weight flying through the air and hitting the ground.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm watching this rugby clip that you sent, and I'm going to say a couple of things here. One, they're not following through on their hits the way they would in American football, and two, these guys are nowhere near as large as the football players in America.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not
I'll have
small
to take your
guys,
word for that.
but they're not as big as American football players. I mean, these guys are probably 200 to 210 in that range, and most of your people that are defensive linemen are at like the 280 300 pound range.
330.
I
Yeah.
suppose that's because it's a lot more of a running game as well. So, you can be big, but you also need to be agile as well. So you have to have that balance, I suppose. While as in American football, because people seem to have very specific roles.
Yes.
You're either offense, you're defense. You're not necessarily being expected to run the whole length of the field. Not everybody isn't. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And another thing, like American football, you're getting tackled almost, or you're getting hit almost, every time. Most of the people. And it looks like here, yeah, if you're holding the ball, you might get tackled, but that's it. So there's a lot less hits happening.
Hmm. What are the
Yeah, I mean, as I said, and I think that's the difference, isn't it? That it's all about getting the ball in rugby, while in American football, there is a lot more about the tactics of making sure the person can make the pass, making sure the person can get the pass, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
basically a three-dimensional wizard's chess.
Yeah, with American football, it seems to be a lot more about the coaches than it is about the players.
Well,
Did
okay.
you? Yes, you
what
did.
what are the I guess a high level view, because I know it can get quite detailed, but what are the, I guess, high level differences between rugby, football, and NFL football?
So I think, okay, so there are either 13 or 15 players on the field at any one time. Rugby league is more similar to American football. Rugby union is less so. And that's just because of the way that they develop. But the basics are that the only person that can be tackled is the one who's got the ball. And you can only pass the ball backwards. The only time the ball can be, gone forward is if you kick the ball forward. And then depending on which code of rugby it is, rugby league allows you 6 tackles, and if you just can't advance the ball in 6 tackles, then you have to give the ball to the other side, a bit similar to American football with its downs. Rugby union doesn't have that. You keep the possession of the ball as long as you have the ball. One thing is true is that once you hit the ground and you're tackled, you have to let go of the ball. This therefore means that there's a lot less stop-start like you have in American football. The game kind of continues a lot more organically. It's at the end of the day, it's a different sport. It has its positives, it has negatives, like all different sports do. There's obviously a big cultural element to it. Rugby union is often played in the prestigious kind of public schools, like the Etons and the Westminsters and whatever of the UK. rugby league was more of a working man's game, and so therefore it's more predominant in the north of England, rugby union in the south. You have these kind of cultural differences over the last 100 years. But as I said, yeah, if you're going to put it down to a couple of specifics, it's only tackle the guy with the ball. Our ball can only be passed backwards or sideways. Can be kicked forward, but that's about it.
Okay.
And the minute you are tackled, you have to let go of the ball.
Okay, if you bring up that video, I think you have to go to YouTube for it that I put there, and you watch that first hit, you'll see what I mean by follow through.
That's interesting because some of those rules are contrary to the NFL football because we can't have forward laterals, and if you drop the ball, it's a fumble.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
It's
can't-
fun to watch.
You can throw
Australian
the ball
rules football,
forward, but you can't lateral it forward.
right? There's a lot of like directionality, and the whole point is to keep the play moving up the field. Like there's very little of the sort of stoppages and continuous. Like NFL drives me crazy because it's so slow. It's like, you set up the play and then you execute the play, but then it's just, that's it. Like that's your one thing. And like, yes, sometimes a play can go long and, a long pass or a running back breaks away or whatever. But by and large, 90% of the time you're getting 8 yards, or 4 yards, or you're getting no yards because the quarterbacks, I mean, the NFL can be a
Yeah,
very
exactly.
grueling, slow. Whereas rugby and Australian rules football is like they're moving. I mean, they're constantly the whole damn team too. That's the other thing. NFL, you have a couple people moving, and then a lot of it is like just confrontational, where you have counterparts on either side pushing against each other, blocking and
NFL has limited
whatever.
movement of non-ball carrying.
Exactly. Whereas rugby, the whole damn team, like everybody's moving and positioning themselves to be
very
the
true.
next one to get the forward kick or the lateral pass, or it's a lot of you have to track a lot of movement to keep up with the game compared to, in my opinion.
And that's why I enjoy American football, but I can only really watch it in highlights, because watching the full game, with all the stop starts and all the stop starts, I haven't got the patience for it personally. I do enjoy Canadian rules for that reason. It's a little bit more of a running game. It's a bit more of a flowing game.
There's more people moving.
Yeah, I mean, and I also think that the American
line.
football. I also think the American football ground is very narrow. It's quite compact.
Well, it's slightly
compared
smaller
to
than
rugby.
the football field. It's only like 2 yards narrower than a football than a soccer field.
How many players again is it in American football?
11 per side on
11
the
per
field.
side.
Obviously, they have more team than that, but
yeah. How many substitutes can you bring on and off?
Many as you want to.
Oh, okay, so that's one difference.
Yeah, I don't think there's a limit.
So,
yeah.
So in rugby league you have 13 players. In rugby union you have 15 players, and you can substitute, if I remember off the top of my head, 4 in the entire match.
Yeah, that's substitution is similar to soccer.
Yeah, and then there's also the concept of the sin bin. That is, if someone makes a significant infraction, a really bad foul, pass, tackle or something like that, then they're sent to the sin bin for 10 minutes. So you're down temporarily by one player.
The penalty box in hockey. Yeah.
Yeah.
So did
Which
you watch
makes
that
a
first
huge
hit?
difference in games. Yeah. Sorry, good.
Did you watch that first hit, Majid?
Yes, I did. I see what you mean. Because there's definitely, because at a certain point, yes, they stop, because it's all about getting the ball or getting the player down. While it seems that in NFL, it's a case of you need to immobilize the other player.
In the
completely.
NFL, you have the whole game, and the idea is to exert your dominance over the other team to where they tire out. And if you're just going to stop when the whistle's blown, that's no fun. Yeah.
Must destroy. Yeah.
Anyway, lads, just a quick one from me. I'm taking the boys out to watch Thunderbolts. So
Oh, tell us how it is.
All the reviews say
I
it's the
will
best
do.
Marvel movie in years.
Anyway, have a good evening, lad.
We got a question.
All right,
See you,
later.
Majid.
See ya.
Don't take
Later.
any wooden footballs.
We got a question in the YouTube comments. I don't know how long it's been there. Nobody monitoring that.
Nope.
Nope.
Well,
I have an M700 Tiny, and we had audio problems from time to time. I'm not going to stress my computer to keep all those windows open.
Okay, Manu. Ask the question.
I don't think they're on anymore.
Well, it says there's
Oh,
11 watching now.
What's the question?
I tried to respond and it said error, and now it wants. Oh God.
He asked the question 15 minutes ago, so he may not still be there. I love that they added timestamps to the chat.
Come back.
I need to stop using Chrome.
Thanks. Firefox was being stupid.
There's a voice.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Well, it's not. We can hear you, so go for it. How you doing, man?
Yeah.
I'm all right. Saw that you were live and had nothing better to do.
Where are you?
Decided to sneak in and listen
that's
a bit.
That's as good an excuse as any.
Sweden.
Cool.
Oh, it's cool.
Good to see you.
Got a good friend in Sweden.
I like how your animation works when you're talking.
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
Yeah,
That's
I think
cool.
that's some Discord Easter egg that they had some game for the 1st of April, and then you got some limited Discord swag.
I know there's more than 20 people in Sweden, so I won't ask if you know my friend.
I think we're 9 or 10 million, so a bit more than 25.
I don't know how famous my friend is in Sweden. Probably not very much, but he's pretty famous over here. So
Yeah, it's one of the countries I want to visit someday. That whole area of Finland, Sweden, Norway.
If I go
I've seen a lot of videos of it.
Forget Denmark.
Yeah, in Denmark. Yeah, I follow a Denmark YouTuber.
You gotta have your Jutland.
I think, what was it? The original Top Gear. I think they had a one of their competitions or road tours or whatever you want to call them. I think through that whole area, Sweden, Norway, if I remember correctly. Because I think, was that the one that had the combine with the flamethrowers?
Crickets.
Don't know
Yeah.
what you're talking about there.
Okay, I guess I'm the only Top Gear fan here. So
Oh yeah. Not even in the middle gear.
well, it'd be too complicated to explain what they're doing with a combine and a flamethrower.
Sounds like a Mythbusters episode.
Yeah, they were interesting. Yeah, either that or like battle bots type of thing.
Has anybody heard anything else about Thunder Mail, when that's supposed to be a thing?
No,
No.
I haven't looked at it.
I'm on the waiting list.
Considering I've never used Thunderbird. The last time I used an email collector or whatever you call it was Eudora.
Well, there's a proper Android app now, and it is well and truly a Mozilla project again. If ever it was not. And they seem to be making a big fuss over this new Thundermail, which should have been a thing a long time ago. I think they should probably be making a bigger deal out of it on the Mozilla side instead of just selling it to people like us.
Bill, have you looked at Mox?
Mox.
I mentioned it, I think, in the last episode of Full Circle Weekly News. It's basically set up your own email handling in 10 minutes or less.
Oh. Yeah, I've looked at a lot of solutions like that, and everybody keeps telling me not to do it. And by everybody, I mean people like Leo.
Well, check out Mox because it sounds like they really have made some strides.
I mean, if I knew I wasn't going to get blocked and it wasn't going to be something that I was going to have to futz with every day, you know what I mean? Because I can't be here managing email servers and that.
I think the annoying part is to keep it up to date and not get exploits and
Right.
end up on spam house and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Set up DKIM and SPF and all what it's called.
Yeah, the DKPF. Yeah, I've been dealing with that with my Fastmail because I wanted to start using 2 of my domains for email, and I'm learning that stuff for the what they call that, the RBL this, the old filtering and stuff. Yeah. But what version of Firefox is this? Because I started when I reinstalled and put Debian testing on my desktop here. I actually added the repos for Firefox, so I'm getting it directly from the Firehose. And
that's cool.
Yeah,
you
it's
can do that.
Probably 138 or something. Probably.
Are you ready to drink from the fire hose?
138.0.1. I don't think. Let's see.
Yeah, I think the .1 is 1 or 2 or 3 bug fixes for something.
Let me see. There. Make selection. There. Sure. Like, there's my, it doesn't even, I was showing, I did a screenshot, showed a friend earlier, said this doesn't even look like,
RescueZilla.
What happened to it? Oh, there you go. But yeah, that doesn't even look like Firefox. It looks like, what do you call it? What's the other one?
You've got,
I just stopped.
You've got the side tabs enabled.
Vivaldi.
Yeah.
I love getting old. But yeah, it looks like Vivaldi, but no, this is Firefox 138.
Yeah, it looks like that
0.1.
when you enable the side tabs. And
I
yeah.
think that got added some releases ago that you can enable that.
Now, how do I turn this off now?
right
X?
click in the the sharing your screen.
Yeah.
Over on the buttons on Discord where you got your camera and the
Yeah, I clicked on it. It says share your screen. I'm clicking on it, and it comes up. Stop streaming. Okay, there we go. Oh, there I am. But yeah, I did notice a bug, and I haven't looked to see if anyone's reported this because I didn't really notice it on my laptop. Because on Fedora, on my not Fedora, I just got off of Fedora. On GNOME, on Debian, on my laptop, everything's full screen, so I just either split an app 50-50 or I'll do a full screen, for my browser. and I had the tabs open, but I had auto hide turned on. I noticed on here because I have a 49-inch ultra wide, so I've got Signal, Telegram, two terminal windows, Firefox, and I got Discord over here. And I had to turn off the auto hide on Firefox because when my mouse would go across country, it would unhide the tab. And I would have to go back to Firefox, unhide it. So basically, with my mouse, I would have to go like this, down, over, up, to keep from activating the tab. So I had to turn it off. So I just leave it on all the time. It's not like I did that on my laptop so that to save screen space because I didn't want it on all the time. So I'm not sure if that's a bug that anyone has reported. But I'm really happy with what they're doing to Firefox now. The sync works. That's the thing that got me off of Vivaldi. The Vivaldi's sync kept breaking. And I depend on the sync too much
I do
not
too.
to have it break. Because I move stuff from my laptop to my phone to my desktop. I was just doing that today because I look up stuff on my phone. People always tease me because I have like 40-some tabs open on my browser. And it's because,
Speaking of,
yeah.
has anybody had any trouble with Nextcloud recently?
No.
My Nextcloud took a major dump and tried to delete everything when I reinstalled it and put it back.
You talking about the client to hook to the
server? My server took a dump.
God help
and got
us.
rid of all of my setup for all of my backups and everything. And I had to reinstall. And because I reinstalled, I guess it picked a new location. And so it wasn't seeing any of my files on my server. So it was getting rid of all the files on all the clients.
That's not good.
So yeah, I had to hurry up and find one of my ones that hadn't reconnected yet and do a full backup. And then I had to go onto my phone and start resetting up all of the automation that I had there to like back up my pictures and stuff.
Well, thankfully, I don't see that we've had any problem on the show's Nextcloud. So, I guess that's good.
Just a recent update or something, or maybe mine was too old. I let it go too long without an update.
You know what? That's something I need to check on because I do let that go longer than I should sometimes. There's not a real good mechanism.
Yeah, I don't know much about what I'm doing, but I do my updates all the time.
Well, to update the Nextcloud, see, updating Nextcloud, it'll take you so far, but then it'll warn you that it could fail if the updates are too large because of the PHP and the Apache settings and whatnot. So it's best to do it from the terminal. And I don't like right now. A new version is available, Nextcloud 30.0.10. Because right now,
yeah, and I set automatic updates on mine. Maybe that's my issue.
Right now we have we got 30.0.8, so I'm 2 patch levels behind. So I'll get on that.
Make sure you got a good backup.
Yeah. Everything backs up to this machine as well, so if ever that did, God help me if ever I had to rebuild all this shit. I do have a backup of it. At least the stuff that's important, all the mintCast stuff, all the Linux OTC stuff.
Hey, Joe?
Yeah.
You gave me a login to your system, but you didn't give me a link.
Okay, it's the exact same IP address. Or you were using Plex TV, weren't you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I will send it to you.
Thank you. I would appreciate that. Yeah, Bill, we ran into the Plex issue. Plex says that if I'm going to be using streaming from Joe, I have to spend at least $1.99 a month or $20 a year to keep my Plex service.
How many more reasons do you need to drop that bullshit?
Jellyfin.
Yep.
All I need is
absolutely.
address. I'll have Jellyfin on both you guys, but I don't think I can do Jellyfin on the same server for 2 connections.
Well, I've never tried it. You'd have to sign
What
out
Joe
of one and into
suggested
the
is
other.
just open up Jellyfin in a different browser and connect to him. And I said I can do that, but I don't know where to connect.
Firefox multi-container tabs is excellent for that. Just that sort of use case.
Well, if you remember, I can't seem to use Firefox on yours.
I have no
On
idea.
Florp. I can't get logged in.
And I have no
There
idea
you go,
what's
Moss.
causing that.
Thank you, Joe.
Where is it?
Yeah, Florp logs me in automatically, but Firefox it takes me to login screens that it doesn't accept my input. And it just changed at that one time that you made some change in your system, and no matter what I do, I can't get around that in Firefox. I hope I can do it in Firefox for Joe. We'll find out.
Well, there's always, Chrome, Chromium, Canary.
I use the web app
Firefox.
creating tool for Mint, and I just make a web app out of Chromium for Jellyfin. That works great.
Mm.
I'm still old school and run Kodi.
Kodi works good. That's the cool thing about Kodi is there's an add-on for Kodi to connect to Jellyfin servers, and it's fantastic.
Cool. I just share my media from my Debian machine running Samba.
Yeah.
And then mount that in Kodi.
That's the way I used to do it.
So location in Kodi.
I was on Kodi, but all the good plugins that got me all my TV sort of went away.
You mean all your filthy pirate plugins for super
pirate?
repos?
You mean an RStack? Oh.
RStack, yeah.
I'm your super repo now, Moss.
Well, between you and Joe.
Now, Bill and Joe, how much effort is there to get Jellyfin
None.
to have remote access like we do with Plex? Because I want to try Jellyfin, but I haven't really dived into that yet.
Okay, you get a port, and then you go to your router, and you put in said port forwarding. Or
So
if you have a reverse proxy, you use that, and you're good. Or if you're using WireGuard, you're done.
Okay, so that's pretty much just a typical port forward.
Yep.
Just mapping the internal port to the external.
Do you have a static IP address?
No.
Or some kind of mechanism set up for go to DuckDNS.
Yeah.
And follow the instructions on there. And get
there's IP Chicken and some other ones. Yeah, Dying DNS. I think Dying DNS you pay for anymore. I don't think they have a free.
DuckDNS is free. And
DuckDNS
is free.
Okay. Let me open that up into it.
And
This is why people always tease me why I have so many tabs. It's because it's stuff like this.
You can set up your search with DuckDNS.
Yeah.
I open this tab up, and this tab will be sitting here until I do something with it. What's their website? I'm seeing a whole bunch of links.
DuckDNS.org.
Yeah.
duckdns.org. You'd think that would be one of the first search results, but it's not.
And they'll give you like, gosh, I don't know, like 5A records for free, something like that. You only need one,
Okay.
but if you like wanted to use, if you wanted to set up like a Nextcloud one and then a Jellyfin one, you could set up separate ones.
Okay, you create an account
Yeah.
and then you can set it up. Okay, looks cool.
And then you saw that Docker Compose I sent you
Yeah.
on Discord here. That's basically the stock Docker Compose that you would use.
While I have you here, because I know I could look this up myself, but it's good content here for anyone that's watching.
Right.
For retention of the Docker containers, is that a relative path or is that an absolute path when you're putting it into the Compose for where your media is or where your files are or where you want that image to store its files on the file system so that when it pulls down another image again, it doesn't go poof?
So,
it'll stay on your system if you map it to your system.
That's what I'm saying. In the Compose file, I was looking
set up the volumes, and where you set up the volumes, that stays on your machine.
Well, you've got two different concepts that you can use. You can either set up a persistent volume that only exists within the Docker system, and that's just by declaring a volume. Or you see, like on that Jellyfin Docker Compose I sent you, you've got a thing where I've got the folder on the host machine bind mounted to the folder on the container.
Yeah,
when you do it that way, you're creating storage outside of the Docker container. That way, it's not ephemeral the way the Docker container is. It stays on your host system.
Okay, so for my example, if I were to do it on mine, my media is on off the root. It's /Plex Media, and then off of that is I have TVs, movies, TV shows, movies. Right. Now inside the Docker Compose, that's what I was saying is if this is an absolute path or is it a relative path? Because what I put in the Docker Compose /Plex Media /movies, Plex Media /TV shows.
That is a absolute path because you're telling it exactly from nowhere.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Absolute is relative.
Okay. So I think I know what you're saying. It is an absolute path relative to where you mount it inside the Docker container.
Okay.
So if you're mounting /MNT /drive name /TV shows, and you point mount TV shows inside the Docker container to that location on your hard drive, then it would be the absolute path of mount TV shows.
Okay. Yeah, because on Snap, it's relative to the var snap folder. Because anything after var snap is considered root.
So, like for the example, if you can see my Docker Compose that I put on there, that last volume says /media pool bind mounted to /media. Jellyfin is looking in /media for all of the media files. I have all my media files in /media pool on my host machine. So that's an absolute path on both sides of the colon there. So I'm telling it under volumes, I'm telling it to bind mount /media pool on my host machine to /media because that's where Jellyfin is set up to look by default.
So it's pretty much just like a native package. You're just pointing it to the actual location of it. Cool. Okay.
But it's useful to use because most of the time, well, I mean, Docker is by design ephemeral, and every time it updates or every time it restarts, it basically starts with a clean slate. So
unless you set the local volumes,
unless you set
save
the
your configs,
and that's how you would do that is by specifying either just that you're going to save a volume within the... See, now if I would have just put volumes and then /media, only thing that would do is save the media /media within the Docker system. It wouldn't be bound to anything on the host machine. Go ahead, Moss.
Do we have a topic?
Yeah,
Yes.
the virtual machines.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, I think I'm going to have much... excuse me. I think I'm going to have much better luck with the second attempt with Docker, because I'm thinking the way... Well, of course, I can't say this now in fairness because TrueNAS or IX Systems completely overhauled how they do stuff on theirs, and you do more command line stuff now. But in their previous incarnation, what I was getting hung up on was the inabilities of the GUI to do all this stuff, because I was trying to follow guides that were telling you to do it in the command line, and I didn't have a command line.
Well,
So
I highly recommend Docker Compose and Portainer.
I usually recommend people learn the Docker Compose before they go messing around with third-party tools, just because it's important to know what these things are doing on the low level, I think.
With Portainer, you're using Docker Compose, so you're still learning what everything is doing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I also started, way back when on the command line with it, so I kind of knew some of it anyway.
now the Docker Compose is the orchestration of the containers. It's not necessarily...
When you spin up, you're going to spin up the container using a Docker Compose command instead of a Docker run command. And when you do that, you're automating a couple of things. Number one, it will always it'll always make sure it's got the most up-to-date container that's available on the system. Now, I run a container called Watchtower that will make sure all of my container images are up to date, and then it will
installed that.
I
just installed that.
Yeah.
I haven't played that much with Docker, but isn't there like a Docker Compose YAML file that's like a recipe of what the thing will do?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about.
Let me show that here in the video here.
I haven't gotten to that point yet. I was in the process of reading that stuff when the stream started, so I'm ignorant of the facts here.
Yeah, I'm going to share it. Hold on.
Because I did see that there's the other difference of the GUI. I saw a lot of people having demonstrations of that, but I'm on a headless server. I'm SSH'd in, so I can't use the Docker desktop.
Well, guys, I'm going to run here.
Yep. Talk to you later, Moss.
Yeah, see you later, Moss. Because everything is going to be running on this.
Okay. Now
this is going to be my Docker host.
Let me show you this here. Go live. Okay. Now, if you look, like right here where it says the image, you're going to get all this information from Docker Hub, and this is like the repo Jellyfin, and then Jellyfin, and then what's right of the colon.
It's going to always download the latest version. Or when you run the thing, it will download the latest version.
So if you wanted to keep it on a specific version because you're having trouble with an update, this is where you would specify a specific version right here. You don't have to, but I name the container Jellyfin. That way it's easy to pick it, because if you don't specify a name, it'll give it some weird random.
Then it gets some random name, like some dictionary words or something.
And then
I know the user. That's how you make it rootless when you put it as user 1000, right?
And then to this right here, the group add. What this does is it adds Jellyfin to the render group. so that it has access to hardware acceleration. These, so right here it's binding the cache and the config on my host system to the cache and config. These two paths /config and /cache are on the Docker container. That way, every time it spins up, because like I said, every time it shuts down with Docker Compose, it destroys the container. The container is 100% ephemeral. Okay, so every time it spins it back up, it knows what to do because it's bind mounting these folders right here. And then, of course, like I said, /media pool is the ZFS pool on the host system that binds to /media, and that's where, by default, Jellyfin is looking for all of the media files.
And I'm
So it's
guessing that the UI is so it can use the graphics card to do encodings and things.
Yes,
Access
that was the
graphics card.
Yeah, that was a recent change. You used to have 2 lines where it was specifying a certain device number and path and all that. And now all you have to do is bind the /dev/dri to /dev/dri in the container, and then restart. If you want it to start up every time you reboot the machine, put always. And then you never have to worry about starting it yourself.
So is that part of the system? Like system D is going to start container D and it's going to start Docker, and then
Correct.
Docker will then
I think it's system D.
anything that's marked restart always is going to automatically reload.
Yeah. There's also a setting under restart for unless stopped, but I've had trouble with that one on some types of containers. So normally I just go with always, and then
Now the volumes, the relative path is going to be on your server /media pool, and then :/media. The /media is the path relative inside of the Docker container.
yeah, I mean it is in the root of the Docker container. So I mean it's an absolute path too.
It's absolute in the container too.
Yeah. I mean these are both absolute paths. This is an absolute path inside of the host machine, and this is an absolute path inside of the container.
Okay, I get it now. Okay.
Yeah, I mean when you screwing around with relative paths can be really confusing.
Oh yeah,
because
that was the problem I had with Snap. It was relative off of var/snap/bin. I'm not a big fan. I gotta be honest, and I know I only tried it because you want to live in it before you criticize it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always fun when you run Steam from Flatpak. Always have to unlock and add a path with Flatseal and things like that.
Yeah.
I almost
paths are much easier.
Yeah, I almost find the Flatpak thing a little bit easier to understand because it's, I don't know, I can wrap my head around the fact that it's running contained and it's got its own runtime and all that, but make it to where I can use some of the native documentation to figure out some of the problems. It's just a different. Instead of sitting in /var, it's sitting in your .var in your home directory or something like that, whereas
that's the case with Steam games. .var .steam instead of .steam.
And that can be a little bit irritating to wrap your head around. The Steam native. Not native. Well, the Steam that you get from the Steam website, I've noticed that works a heck of a lot better nowadays than it used to. Just to download it from there, which is what I do on Mint, and I've never had a problem with it. But yeah,
I'm one of those big art people.
Yeah, I'm not a big gamer, so I've just got like this academic interest in gaming on Linux because I want to be able to I want to know how well it's working.
Right. Now I play games from time to time. I played Doom Eternal lately with the DLCs and the Wolfenstein games.
Oh yeah.
The older Wolfenstein games from 2014, 2015 had some problems with Wayland, however, so I had to log into XFC with Xorg. But the newer one from 2017 and 2018 worked in Wayland. I guess they use a newer engine for the newer games.
I'm sorry. Did you say the older Wolfenstein game from what year?
Yeah, this is the new ones from 2014. Not the one from the 90s.
Okay.
Yeah, not
Continue.
everybody.
There was a reboot some years ago.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's 2014, 2016, somewhere around there. But yeah, when did the original Wolfenstein? Didn't that come out? What, 87?
Oh yeah, I
89?
think I remember people playing it on Apple II, didn't they?
I know Doom was like what, 91, 92?
Yeah.
93, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, guys, I'm gonna get off of here. I got some editing to do, so I'm gonna shut the stream down. Thanks to everybody
All right, well,
that joined us in the live stream. Join us on Discord one of these days. I don't think we do, like I've said before, I don't think we do a good enough job of getting the information out there that this is supposed to be something for everybody to join in on. We might want to write that into the show notes at some point.
Yeah.
You know.
I know we mentioned it.
I think we mentioned
I think we should.
Yeah, I
I
think
think
we should
be more
clearer.
direct.
Yeah.
I think we should be more direct about it, saying that this is not just a planning meeting. This is just nerds hanging out.
Yeah, because, I mean, we do have our meeting on the same weekend, and that's supposed to be a meeting that kind of turns into the same thing as this, except it's just us. But, yeah, I think we probably ought to look at that. Anyway, I'll see you guys later.
Yeah.
Have a good one.